Yo, 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 what's good, everybody? It's your boy Dominic Peterson, aka Duck Zone 503, hopping on the channel, man. It's been a while. I haven't been on here in a couple weeks. Reason is, as you can see, I got a new setting, just moved into my new apartment. So, if anybody's out there's ever moved before, you know how grueling that process can be and how much time goes into that. But I'm finally moved in, got my stuff set up, and just in time to talk about some breaking news today with my partner in crime here. I got Jonathan Charles in the building from scoopduck.com. He's a writer there covering Oregon recruiting and breaking news as well. And basically all things Oregon football. So, yeah, glad to have him on the show here. Jonathan, do you want to say what's up real quick?
Hey, what's up? I'm happy to be here with Dominic, talking about what's going on with Oregon. And there's a lot of news to break down today.
100%. Yeah, breaking news. The news that we're talking about is that UCLA and USC, just a couple minutes ago, have officially moved to the Big Ten. So big news. We got an ESPN article that we're gonna read through, and then in between sections, we're gonna give our thoughts and opinions and kind of break down this move and what it could mean for Oregon in the end. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into it. I'm going to pull up this ESPN article that just came out today as of June 30th. This move is for the 2024 season, USC UCLA moving from Pac-12 to Big Ten in 2024 here. So I'll just go ahead and give like my initial thoughts like before we get into the article. Like when I first seen this move, for me, I'm more of a traditionalist college football, and I know I do understand why we are getting these type of moves like Texas to SEC, and it's kind of becoming two mega conference, SEC, Big Ten, and college football. And for me originally, it just kind of it didn't make much sense because you look at it geographically. I mean, you have USC playing the Rutgers. That's like a 2,000-mile drive. So for me, it's just like it's kind of a disadvantage for the West Coast teams, in my opinion, because of how much traveling. And I know that the East Coast will have to travel the same amount, but just the total amount of how many times we have to go out that way if you're a West Coast team, the miles on your body, the time, it's bad for a team, just mentally to constantly go on those flights, those long trips, instead of maybe a 2-hour bus ride, or an 8-hour bus ride to like Seattle or something, or a flight down to LA, which is real quick. There's that, and there's a whole bunch of things we get into. But off the top of my head, that's just what my first reaction was like. Geographically, this doesn't make sense. But then as I got into the financial part and understand TV deals more, which I kind of just started learning about today, kind of makes more sense. And I understand why this move is happening. But as a traditionalist college football person who loves the Pac-12, kind of shocked me a little bit. What was your initial thoughts when you first seen the news?
Yeah, I'm with you right there, Dominic. Just because like I'm a traditionalist as well. I liked how everything was in the past, but I mean, with the way everything's been going with Texas and Oklahoma, you kind of already saw this trend of it's just going to be like these like 3 or 4 mega conferences. I mean, which is fine. I mean, which is probably better for the sport. Me personally, since I live in LA, I can go to the games that are more like highly ranked and the better marquee matchups, like UCLA versus like Penn State, or like USC versus Ohio State. And for me, it works out personally, right? But of course, not for everyone. Where like they like seeing that like Oregon Stanford or Oregon Cal, whatever. Um, so financially, it makes sense. It's going to help out the program because money's king, or football is king. And then yeah. So I mean, we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, 100%, man. I totally agree. The traditionalists, both of us, which we are, it's in the name, tradition. That's why I mean, even though the matchups, if you don't live on the West Coast, they're just not sexy. You got Cal versus Stanford, they're just not going to pull the numbers as an Ohio State, Penn State might, or, any of those SEC schools, top SEC schools might, because, but here on the West Coast, people who have generations of, playing against Cal, playing against Stanford, Stanford against Oregon has been one of the big time rivalries, before, Stanford kind of going downhill a little bit. Oregon and Stanford were one of the primetime matchups for the North Division in the Pac-12 every year, especially in Chip Kelly years. I mean, Stanford has been a pain in Oregon's side just last year. So, seeing that matchup go away is just going to be, devastating, especially, you got in-state Oregon State, Oregon. What's Oregon? You got these little schools like Washington State, Oregon State. What are they going to do? When the big fish go to the big mega conferences, the average, in the middle, you got Arizona State, the Arizona schools, they could probably go to the Big 12, stuff like that. And it's just, geographically, you look at it and it's just like, you see all the Big 10 teams in this huddle. And then there's UCLA and USC that just went out. And if more West Coast teams decide to do that, it's just, I feel like, competitive wise, it just takes a big disadvantage off the West Coast teams, because we constantly have to travel out that way. And it's not easy at a young age when you're not used to doing that. Professionals, sure, they travel all the time. They're used to doing that. They've been through it season after season. These guys, they're coming out of high school. Some of these guys don't even go out of state in high school. They still stay in state the whole time. So, that in itself is a big disadvantage for these West Coast teams, in my opinion. And then it just sucks to lose these matchups that you're traditionally used to. Jonathan, you also put out a tweet though that I think is real valuable for people, though, is that you said change is not always bad. It's always for the best, which you look at it as an Oregon fan. If we do decide to hop into the Big Ten with these other schools, I mean, look at the matchups: Ohio State, Penn State, the better competition, the more viewership for recruiting and stuff like that. So there are positives to this, in my opinion. What do you think, man?
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of positives, right? Like, or like the football team will probably be independent. Like, they'll probably be the only one that like sticks to playing out a conference. In terms of the other sports, they'll probably still play in the Pac-12 and still play all those schools. We'll kind of see. I mean, we're just kind of speculating right now. But yeah, like it's going to be a little difficult just because of travel. Like, you're having to travel, I don't know, maybe like 4 to like probably like 6 times, 5 times like a year out to the West Coast, which is a lot. I mean, these student athletes have to deal with being a student first, and but I mean, like I said, it's better off for the sport in the long term, and I'm low key happy for it.
Yeah, man, I could definitely see, there's always positives and negatives that we could get into and, speculate on. But let's go ahead and get right into the facts on this ESPN article that just came out today about this situation. Here, we'll pull it up here. So here we go. We got USC UCLA moving from Pac-12 to Big Ten in 2024. So this move is expected to happen in the 2024-2025 season, I believe. Give me a second as my computer refreshes here. But yeah, man, big move coming out of the West Coast here is these first 2 teams out of the Pac-12. The Pac-12, it was speculated that was kind of dying. You know what I mean? It was on its way out. Larry Scott kind of did the permanent damage. George Kliavkoff, I think you say his name. He tried to come in and repair what was a broken system, but you've seen the way the TV deals were happening and the way the SEC and Fox and ESPN with the SEC, Fox with the Big Ten and stuff were becoming just more powerful, more richer in resources. You've seen the fruition happening, and and QB11 in the spaces said it best that it was to take USC and those LA schools to jump out of the Pac-12 to get the dominoes rolling. But here, I'm trying to get this open here. Okay, here we go. Share screen. Bear with me here. Okay, so Here we go. USC and UCLA, two of the Pac-12's flagship programs, were notified Thursday night that their application to join the Big Ten has been accepted. The schools will play in the conference in 2024. The vote was unanimous when Big Ten presidents and chancellors met on the addition of the two schools on Thursday evening, source told ESPN's Adam Rittenberg. Pause this for a second. So ultimately, the Big Ten is the best home for USC and Trojan athletics as we move into the new world of collegiate sports. USC Athletic Director Mike Bowen said in a statement, "We are excited that our values align with the league's membership institution. We also will benefit from the stability and strength of the conference. The athletic caliber of Big Ten institutions, the increased visibility, exposure, and resources the conference will bring our student athletes and programs, and the ability to expand engagement with our passionate alumni nationwide." So right there, you had USC athletic director Mike Bowen on his statement on joining. Then we have UCLA Chancellor Gene Block and athletic director Martin Germond, hopefully I'm saying that right, said in a statement, "Entry into the Big Ten will also help ensure that UCLA preserves and maintains all 25 current teams and more than 700 student athletes in our program. Additionally, it means enhanced resources for all our teams, from academic support to mental health and wellness. And although this move increases travel distances for teams, something that we just hit on, the resources offered by the Big Ten membership may allow for more efficient transportation options. We would also explore scheduling accommodations with the Big Ten that best support our student academic pursuits." So there you have it. He just kind of hit on the UCLA athletic director, kind of something that we were just talking about in our initial reactions, that they're talking about it does expand travel, but a good counterpoint to that is that with the money that they will be bringing in with association with the Big Ten Conference, I mean, I've heard estimates up to double that they're offering. I think they were talking about USC, the Pac-12 is offering 60 million to USC, and the Big Ten's offering up to 100 million. So you take that money and you finance, better flights, you finance, faster flights, stuff like that for the student athletes that maybe cost a little more, but with you getting more money, it might help with that. What do you think?
Yeah, like financially speaking, so you're gonna have to end up spending more for these for the equipment team, right? Like to maintain the trucks, pay the drivers a little more, just because they have to make this long trek of 40 hours, like 5, 6 times out of 5 months out of the calendar year, which is fine. I mean, all that money that they would have, or that they're going to earn in the Big Ten now kind of makes up for it. And then the program is still left off profitable.
Yeah, 100%, man. They could definitely use that. That money to make better, to make more efficient flights. I would say out there, it's going to be more expensive, but with the money they're offering, it kind of just offsets that, as they said in this article. But yeah, here we'll jump right back into it here. So a source told ESPN that the exploration of finances and what it would take to make the move has been going on for weeks. Like, as we said, kind of been in the wheels here, seeing what Texas was doing and stuff like that. So while finances are playing a big role in the move, competitiveness, brand, and the overall landscape of the future of the sport have played a bigger role. USC and UCLA have to make the decisions to position them best for the long term. A source familiar with the move to ESPN, "The future is so uncertain, we need to be operating from a position of strength." The Pac-12 released a statement later Thursday saying it was extremely surprised and disappointed by the news of USC and UCLA leaving. We have a long and storied history in athletics, academics, and leadership in supporting student athletes that we're confident will continue to thrive and grow into our future, the Pac-12 said in a statement. The Pac-12 is home to many of the world's best universities, athletic programs, and alumni, representing one of the most dynamic regions in the United States. We've long best known as the Conference of Champions, and we're unwavering in our commitment to extend that title. We will continue to develop new and initiative programs that directly benefit our member institutions, and we look forward to partnering with current and potential members into pioneer of college athletics together. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. The Pac-12 releasing that statement. They sound a little salty that USC and UCLA have decided to make this move when these guys, they knew that this move was coming. I mean, come on. You've seen the media deals. You've seen the conferences with the SEC and Big Ten gaining more power and more exposure. And, another thing to hit on, just the culture of Big Ten and SEC football is way stronger than out here. So, it's kind of easy. It's kind of attractive to go that route. And, they also put out a statement, said we're going to be looking for more teams, basically, in their phrasing there. Do you have any thoughts on like where the Pac-12 could go? Do you see it dissolving, or do you think they can add more teams? And if so, what teams do you think they could add?
Yeah, like I think it would be best if Oregon left to the Big Ten and they took like Utah or Washington with them. They'll probably end up taking Washington with them. The Pac-12, in terms of their future, they'll probably add a bunch of like Mountain West schools, like San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State. So a lot of those like mid-tier schools, and they'll probably try and keep a lot of those West Coast programs together. I don't know. We'll kind of have to see, because the Big 12 might just absorb all of them and just take them with them. But that might be later down the road. At least for now, the Pac-12 should probably keep the continuity of the Big 12 or of the Pac-12, and just add in a few other teams here and there from the Mountain West.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I could totally see. A lot of people are saying that the Pac-12 is going to get dismantled and dissolved. I honestly see it still gaining around. It's going to be I think this was mentioned in the spaces while I was on there, but it's going to be a shell of itself, the conference. I mean, it's not going to be the same. I don't see it being dissolved, though, and be totally gone. Like the Mountain West is looking like it would be, to be honest. I mean, you look at the food chain, where it's going. You got the SEC, the Big Ten kind of absorbing everything, going this way. Mountain West is down here. So that's the next thing to go. I would say the Pac-12 after that. If the power keeps going, sucking into the SEC and keep power and more teams keep sucking into the Big Ten, you're going to see, eventually the Pac-12 would be next. But as of right now, today, I think the Mountain West is in big trouble more than the Pac-12 would be, honestly.
Yeah, and we'll see where this goes. Like in terms of like recruiting, this helps a lot too now, especially with NIL. Like if Oregon were to stay in the Pac-12, they would only make like 30 million versus going to the Big Ten, where they would triple that amount by making 90 to 100 million a year in revenue with the TV deals. Plus, you would have better kickoff times, right? Like you wouldn't have to deal with all these like it's super late for these West Coast people to deal with. It just kind of works out all around. Plus, it allows more eyes on the viewerships and the voters to watch Oregon, USC, UCLA, whoever's the best team that year to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. I think the Pac-12 definitely blew it with like kickoff times and stuff like that, trying to get the rest of the country to view the West Coast, but couldn't do it based off these kickoff times. I mean, you had primetime matchups kicking off at like 7:00 at night sometimes. And on the West Coast, I mean, it's 10 o'clock. People are going to bed. People don't care about the Pac-12. Let's just keep it real. I mean, on the East Coast, people don't care. They look at the Pac-12 and go, oh, well, there's Oregon out there that might check into, but, sometimes they blow it and stuff. And USC hasn't been irrelevant in the past few years. So just in all honesty, like we need better kickoff times for better exposure. And going to the Big Ten, Oregon, Washington, USC, the big dogs in the Pac-12, I would say, as the more recent years, Oregon, Washington, Utah, those three teams, if they went to the Big Ten and joined the LA schools, they, like you said, more money for NIL. That's a huge thing in recruiting, as you can see. Better kickoff times, more exposure for recruiting. Those are all the pros, rather than the distance. And we already, said the whole thing with the distance, that thing that popped up in my head, the biggest problem, that has been countered with, you get funds, you get money to counter that, to be more efficient, to get more efficient funds to travel for your athletes and stuff like that, better hotels, stuff like that. And they're going to be working with the Big Ten. The Big Ten's only going to get more powerful with the more brands that come into their league. So it's kind of a win-win, and you're leaving something that hasn't benefited you, leaving something that is in front of your eyes breaking down. And I think that's the only way to go. And I think the only way for the Pac-12 to survive is add those Midwest teams, maybe a BYU as well, stuff like that, all that. And, I do agree. I think the best move for Oregon at this point is to go join the Big Ten and get all the benefits that come with that. So, I'll go ahead and keep reading this ESPN article here. Let's keep it going. So the reason this move, okay, here we go. Oh boy. Okay. So my internet is being crap, but I think for the most part, I think we're all in agreement here, me and Jonathan, that the best move for Oregon would join the Big Ten. And there's been talks about the SEC, and I'll get into that. But yeah, we'll get into that. So the financial pressures being felt by the Pac-12 are similar to those being felt in the ACC and beyond. So other conferences, it's not just the Pac-12 that's happening, where teams are getting siphoned into other conferences. As conference revenue projections, which can vary and are not always linear, have the SEC and the Big Ten making nearly double the amount of this as some of the other Power 5 leagues later this decade. So 10-year projections come out, stuff like that. They're talking about Big Ten and SEC. These guys are getting, huge projections with the TV deal, the exposure, the branding, all that. The teams that are getting the riches of the sport, they're all in the SEC and the Big Ten. So they're nearly double these guys, the other conferences, revenue. So it only makes sense for like the Oregon to jump ship, in my opinion. And we'll keep reading through here. Those financial pressures left USC and UCLA with the choice of bullying the Pac-12 for unequal revenue shares or going elsewhere and having a seat at the table for the long term. The impact of the finances will allow them to not only stay competitive nationally in football, but also sustain the support for all sports, including women's sports and non-revenue sports. So this is bigger than football. Joining different conferences, not only for football, it's for basketball as well. And man, as you can see, the revenues are just, gigantic for these other conferences. With Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, it became evident for those schools, and there was only one option, said one familiar source, to move. It will be interesting to see how this will affect Fox's upcoming television deal with the Big Ten, which is expected to be announced in the upcoming weeks. The addition of the two schools could bring both the West Coast and one of the country's most appealing media markets. The move is gutting for the future of the Pac-12, as Fox's means that investments in the Pac-12, which Fox has long owned part of, will be decreased significantly. This move leaves the conference with Oregon and Washington as its top schools after losing the biggest two brand names. I was always of the opinion that UCLA could leave Cal, a Pac-12 source at ESPN. There's no more political state in that system. That was very surprising. So yeah, there you have it. There's the ESPN article right there. And yeah, so I just think that, Oregon joining the Pac-12 is the best move. And we kind of already established that, and it's writing on the wall. Money has everything to do with this. And for recruiting, brand wise, matchup wise, kickoff time, there's more pros than negatives here. As a traditionalist, me personally, I love the matchups. I love seeing those matchups, but it is what it is, man. Oregon made the move, and that's what it's been. So what are your thoughts, Duck fans? I want to know. Go ahead and comment below. Like the video if you think this is a good move for Oregon, or should Oregon try to go look at the SEC? That's something we can get into right now. The SEC, Oregon has maybe some rumors going there. But here's the thing: the AAU is a big thing. The academic association with the universities, the AAU. There's a lot of rich, snotty people up top at these schools, presidents. If you're not with the AAU, some schools like Ole Miss, Mississippi State, they're not part of the AAU. And you'll never catch those presidents talking to each other because politically it's just not a thing. If you're not part of the AAU, it's a big reason why, you see, Texas is an AAU school, but they were like only the second team to do that. So, it's a big reason why Oregon is like, in my mind, not going to go to the SEC because they're an AAU school, and the Big Ten, like, school wise, the Big Ten conference matches that better, in my opinion. So I think Oregon's headed for the Big Ten. I think Washington's headed for the Big Ten. I think Utah's headed for the Big Ten. I think everybody else might be headed for what's left of the Big 12. I think Oregon State, Stanford, Washington State are in trouble. Oregon State and Washington State might join the Midwest if there even is a conference left for that. And I think Stanford's going to become independent, just like Notre Dame was. I think that's how I see it shaking out. Duck fans, give me your opinion. Drop comments below. Drop a like. Drop a subscribe if you're not subscribed to the Duck Zone family. Peace.